Thank you for joining the presentation about how to motivate and incentivize your dream team. I work for Smith & Williamson, but I'm not an accountant. I run the HR consulting team, so a lot of what we talk about is exactly the kind of services that we deliver. So, what are you expecting to hear about this afternoon? Did you think maybe we might define what a dream team is? What talent management is? Maybe talk about reward, pay and benchmarking? And employee engagement, which everyone seems to be talking about at the moment. Did you expect we'd talk about developing people and giving people as many reasons as possible to want to work for you? Come and join us. Have a seat. Excellent. Can you see? Yeah. And of course, lots and lots of solutions to these problems. Well, actually, I'm not going to talk about any of these things. What I want to do is challenge your thinking. I've tried to get into the entrepreneurial mindset and think how you think. So a lot of this will not be rocket science to you, but it might be to some of the other people who've been in business for many, many years. So what I will cover. Okay. Traditional organisational hierarchy, the triangle with the senior people at the top and the people who deal with the clients and the customers at the bottom. You've probably heard about the inverted triangle or the inverted pyramid, which looks like this one. Essentially, what it says, and we've been talking in business about this for about 20 years, is that we need to invert our thinking and turn it upside down, so that the people closest to the front line or the client or the customer are at the top of the organisation and that they're highly engaged. So in terms of motivation and inspiration, I want you to turn your thinking upside down and stop thinking about the things that you've always related to motivating and incentivising people. And I'm going to talk to you about someone called Daniel Pink. It's not, as Nicola and I were talking about at lunch, the character from Doctor Who. It's the American psychologist who talks about the Flip Manifesto. What I will say is it's not some wacky thinking. It's highly, highly researched, and it encourages you to take traditional thinking and flip it upside down and do the opposite. So like I said, it's highly researched. It encourages us to flip conventional wisdom. It challenges age-old beliefs, and that will challenge some of us in this audience today. It asks us to do things counter to what others might believe, and do what you're doing, but in the reverse order. It tells us to learn to doubt yourself rather than always believing in yourself. Now that's a really tough one to get your head around. Forget trying to find your passion. Again, I can see the expression of some of my colleagues in the audience, because I think we're brought up to seek to find our passion in life. And it asks us to open our minds to the alternatives. So looking at motivation, I'm going to talk about learning to doubt yourself and what that means. I'm going to suggest you pay people too much. Now I'll just see how that rests in the audience. Yes, some smiles, some looks of horror. Take as much holiday as you want and let your people do the same. Bit countercultural. Stop trying to find your passion. Forget the to-do list and create a to-don't list. Self-doubt. Has anyone attended any of these motivational talks about I can do anything I can, if I just put my mind to it, I can do whatever I want? Yeah, a couple of nods? Okay. Daniel Pink suggests that we need to challenge that thinking. And we need to ask ourselves the question, can we fix it? Can it be done? Introduce that element of doubt. The research that he's done to suggest this is that he has repeated a test with groups of people, and he's given them all a mantra. One is I can, one is I, one is can, and the other is can I. So 4 different mantras, and then he's asked them to solve problems. And what he's found is the group that have the mantra, can I, that introduce that element of doubt, invariably solve 100% more of the problems than any other group repeatedly during the tests. Now, I mentioned what I do at Smith & Williamson. So we deliver HR services to clients. At the moment, we're really, really busy benchmarking pay. Because the economy's changed, or changing, and it's moving very much to a candidate-led market, people want to make sure they're paying the going rate for the job. Very interestingly, sometimes when we give them the benchmarking data, they will say, I don't really like that, I still want to pay at the bottom, but at least I now have a strategy because I know I'm paying at the bottom. But what I'm suggesting is, you overpay people. That's what Daniel Pink asks you to do. If you pay people more than the going rate, you attract the best people, you get better motivation, you retain them, you get one over on the competition. And what he suggests is that that is something that can give you a unique selling point. Bit challenging, I know. Utilisation of time. Work-life balance has always been of interest to everybody in the workplace, but actually with the new generation coming into the workplace, this is far more valuable to them. They seek work-life balance. Also, historically, inputs may have been valued more than outputs. And what Daniel Pink suggests is a holiday policy that's to have no policy at all. Again, quite countercultural, but did you know that some organisations, leading edge, yeah, you're nodding, do you know who's actually doing this at the moment? Yeah? Yeah, and do you know why? Well, actually, in some cases they do, but what they're finding is the productivity is better because people will still do their day job, but they'll manage it around other commitments. Bono, you too? Yeah? You know the song, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For? Well, we work with a lot of our clients and we coach them. A lot of people say, I'm still trying to find out what it is in life I'm here to do. And what Daniel Pink suggests is if you're constantly seeking the Holy Grail, you won't be present in the moment. And actually you're missing out. Because if you're present, you're far more likely to enjoy what you're actually doing, rather than always looking for something that you might not find. And of course, the to-do list. Anyone got a to-do list on their desks, even at home? Yeah, we've all got them. He suggests a to-don't list because actually sometimes we leave too many options open to ourselves, and in closing some of those down you can actually have more traction and actually do more. And he also says relate that to yourself. So know yourself, know what works for you, and quite specifically it might be things like this. So for example, I'm not suggesting that this is going to fit everyone in the audience, but find out what works for you and stop doing it. It'll make you more effective. Incentivization. I'm going to talk about restless curiosity, that constant desire to ask why and challenge. I'm going to suggest you scrap performance reviews. Again, interesting reaction from you as an audience. Talk like a human being. Focus less on shareholder value. I'll say that one again. Focus less on shareholder value. Take the e-test. Everyone in the room is going to do that, including my colleagues. And talk less, listen more. So, restless curiosity. People are born with it. And I think life, education, the world of work does a great job of ironing that out of us. In a previous life, I used to work at Lloyds Bank, and restless curiosity was a talent differentiator there. So, in order to be designated as top talent, you had to demonstrate restless curiosity. Now there's a thought. So it's essentially making sure you apply the tried and tested rules of journalism and ask the questions: who, why, what, when, where, and of course critically, how. It's about challenge, not taking things at face value, even the tried and tested stuff. The annual performance review. Again, I'd like you to think about the people entering the workplace. Think of your audience, the millennials. Anyone got a millennial living in their household? Yeah? One or two? They kind of live their life like this. It's a different world. They live in the virtual world. So think, what makes them tick? How do they live their lives? How quickly do they get feedback? And if they press a button, something happens. It's instant feedback. So what is wrong with the annual performance review? Well, it's quite simply, it's annual, and what you need is the constant feedback. So we need to rethink some of these traditional ways of doing things. I suspect some people in the audience might be thinking we don't even have an annual performance review process. So maybe you actually don't need to create one, but create something different. Talk like a human being. I think this one speaks for itself. It's about the language that you use. Think about your audience and think about owning the message rather than what Daniel Pink would call renting it. So really genuinely show that you mean what you say. Shareholder value. Now here's an interesting one. It's a theoretical argument. Now, organisations for 20 years plus have been targeting shareholder value as their optimum goal. What targeted research shows is that targeting shareholder value has no impact on it. So it actually does not appear to work. Another challenge is around paying the CEOs of organisations top dollar. So we think that that creates shareholder value. Research shows it doesn't. Now there's a thought. I'll leave that to resonate with you. Now, I mentioned the e-test. I want everybody to do this exercise. So can I just ask that you take your hands, put them on your lap together, please. Just look straight at me. So put away your BlackBerry, John. And what you're going to do is, if you're right-handed, take your right hand. If you're left-handed, your left hand, and just raise it. Point your finger like this. Excellent. What you're going to do when I say go is you are going to write an E on your forehead. So 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, that's so interesting. So we've got a mix of how people did that. This is highly researched. It's called the empathy test. So don't tell your partner, this is a question for your own head. How did you write that E? Did you write it like this so that you can read it? Or did you write it so you could read it? Just a question for yourself. You don't have to share it, but what it means is, if you wrote it so that other people can read it, it shows you have automatic empathy. And it's researched. It is highly, highly researched. If you did it the other way, it suggests you might have a bit of work to do. Okay? Now, what I want you to do is talk to one other person in the room. So just pair up with one person and tell them one thing about what I've said that you think is of interest and can be applied. And just keep it between the two of you. we done? Yep. Excellent. Now, like I said at the beginning, I'm not suggesting you believe absolutely everything I've just said. What I want you to do is just think about how it might apply, which is quite a different thing. It's challenging, it's a bit different, it's turning things upside down. And I've just got one more thing to say before I finish, and here it is. Ooh, here it isn't. But here it is. Thank you. Any questions? Lucy's just asked about Virgin using some of this stuff, whether it's actually working. I think it's quite a recent move that they've adopted some of this thinking. So I can't actually answer the question. I don't know, but wouldn't it be great to find out? Sorry, that's a rubbish answer. Hi, at the back. Okay, great question here. Someone's just asked, are there occasions when a lack of empathy is actually a strength? And I do have a view on that, but I'd be really interested, does anyone else in the audience have a view on that they'd like to share? Or if not, how about yourself? What do you think? Having asked the question. Okay, so there's been a really, really interesting point made about the fact that sometimes you have to make decisions where empathy might, as you say, get in the way and actually be counterproductive. I think my view on that would be, personally, you could potentially still have the empathy, but it's about what you present and your resilience in dealing with delivering a message. So I think, personally, I would tend to want to have the empathy and be able to put myself in the other person's shoes. That's what empathy is. You can see things from another person's perspective, but actually you don't need to kind of die in the ditch with them. When you have a tough message, you can still deliver that and not become emotionally involved with it. Okay. Any other questions? Are we done? Thank you very much.